Hi, my name is Erica Lee, and I will be presenting a lesson on two-step equations to students who are in an online course, an online classroom. I will be assuming that we're using Google Classroom in this situation to share links and access to just whatever we need to do. So to get started, I would welcome the kids into the Google Meet, just see how they're doing, say hi, and then start going. So I'd present today's topic. We're starting two-step equations, which is built on what we learned last time of one-step equations. So kind of refreshing on one-step equations with them, reminding them what we learned last time, and then being okay, let's now hop into breakout rooms, and I'm going to present you guys with some questions. This you and a partner that I've set you up with will have this document on your Google Classroom page. You will click on it, and you and your partner are going to answer these questions. So look at these equations and think to yourself, what is the goal and how do you think we will solve this? So let the students go into a breakout room, and then I would give them about a minute to figure out what's going on. And this gives them the opportunity to collaborate with each other, add to this page, and then this is one thing they can turn in just to for their warm up. The one thing that I'm going to be one thing I'm going to hope they're getting or discovering is that it's now that there's two integers on one side of the equation, we now have to decide which thing are we going to do first, because order of operations, we know that if you don't do something in a certain order, you can get a different answer. And so that's the one thing that I hope we would talk about, or that they would be thinking about. So after about a minute, I'd welcome them back to the class, or back to the Google Meet in the main room, and then just ask a few groups to share what they discovered, and ask other people oh, did you think something different? Who thought the same? Who think that's a good idea, XYZ? And then if they mention any information that is good for this, I'll make sure to give them that feedback of oh yeah, yes, you're right on the dot, or just XYZ, be okay, that's not quite it, or it's oh, you're getting onto something. So just make sure they're getting feedback, and that way they can start looking for answers as we go through the lesson. So once they've done that and we've had our discussion, I'll hop into a direct lecture on two-step equations. And before we do this, I would just want to kind of talk about show an example of a one-step equation, just being okay, who remembers how to do this one-step equation? So if I had here we go. If I had x minus 19 is equal to 20, I'd be okay, who remembers how to do this? And let them walk through this. They could share their screen, or they could just communicate with me and I'll write it out for them. So we drop our line, and then we say, okay, what's our goal? Our goal is to get the variable alone so we can figure out what it equals. So here's our variable. What's making it not alone on this side of the equation is this plus 19. So talking about operations, we do opposite operations to move it over. So we add the 19, and then this zeroes out, which we've talked about. Whenever we are adding or subtracting something, we want it to zero out, and then we drop down what we have left. So we have x left, and we drop down that equal sign, and then we do the math over here. So 20 plus 19 gives us 39. Then, just to do another refresher, something that this also builds on is having multiple things in an equation. So let's change this up. So if I was giving the students an equation, let's put it over here. say we had like 3 times, or parentheses, 2 plus 7 plus 4 minus 1 is equal to what? So this would just be a reminder of PEMDAS to say, okay, it's really important to look at like what we need to do first, right? So let's look here. So we have this 2 plus 7, so parentheses. We looked for our parentheses, we saw the 2 plus 7 in there. That gives us 9, and we're going to rewrite as we go along. Plus 4 minus 1. Okay, we did that one. Okay, are there any exponents? Nope, no exponents. Done. Multiplication. Okay, and we've talked before about like how parentheses can also, like when there's a number outside of parentheses, it means to multiply, so I want to do this part next. 3 times 9 gives us 27, plus 4 minus 1. So we've done our multiplication. Is there any division, like in this last part that we've done? No. Any addition? Oh, yep, there it is. So 27 plus 4 gives us 31, minus 1. That's our subtraction, and that gives us 30. So this is a step to also think about, of being like, okay, I have to do things in the right order. Okay, now we are ready to hop into two-step equations. So, two-step equations, what is the goal? Let the students answer if they've like already figured it out. Just restating our goal, get variable alone, alone, and variable again, it just means like a letter that is representing a number. Sometimes we know, like, or we're able to solve the variable, sometimes it's just a placeholder that we can put numbers in. In this situation, it is a number that we're trying to figure out, or like a letter that we're trying to figure out what its value is. But it can be any letter. A, Y, just whatever. Get variable alone to solve its value. Okay, so how do we do this? So like we talked before, let's move this up a little bit. So our goal is to get the variable alone. But now, instead of having one number, we have two numbers that we have to think about. So we look on this side and we say, okay, I have two numbers now. Let's see. I have this and this, 8 and this -7. So I'm not like what we did before in this other example, right? We didn't know what this equaled, so we followed PEMDAS. But in this situation, we do know what it equals. So this is how we know what we need to do. We still use PEMDAS, but when we know what our equation equals, we actually have to go the opposite direction. Oops. Instead of using PEMDAS, we're going to go and use SADMAP. That's what some people call it. But just using this will now be our first thing to look for. Subtraction or addition will be the first thing to look for. Let's go like this. So first thing to look for and second thing to look for. So we're not going to worry about doing the actual math. We're just going to number off what we see that we would need to do first. So in this example, I'm going to erase this part too. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to look at the numbers and what's happening to them. So I have this 8 and I have a -7b. So I know that like when a variable and a number are touching, that means we have to multiply. And that is not the first thing we're doing, right? Like that's in our second area. So let's look at this 8. What's happening to it? Well, the -7 is being subtracted from it. It's not being multiplied or divided. So I know that this 8 is the first thing I want to do. I'm just going to put 1 by it, saying that's my first thing I want to do. And then since there's only one other number, this is my second number I want to work with. So now that we have that done, we're ready to start solving and using those opposite operations. So we have this 8 and we want to zero it out. So since it's a positive, I want to minus it. -8. What I do to one side, I do to the other. 8 minus 8, 0, and then -41 minus 8 is equal to -49. Now we drop down what we have left is equal to -7b, and then we say, okay, what's happening between these two things? They're being multiplied, so doing the opposite, I want to divide. Divide by -7, divide by -7, sorry, that kind of looks like a 4, that's a 9. So -49 divided by -7 gives us 7, and then those canceled, so now we have b. So that is how we do that example. Let's look at the next example and see if you guys can tell me what we need to do. Let's first start off by labeling what thing needs to happen first. So following SAT map, what do we have going on here? Let's look at the numbers that we have. We have a 3 and a 4. Which one should we take care of first? Yeah, the 3, because the 3 is being added, and that's in one of our first things, right? The addition and subtraction. So it's being added, so that's going to be my number 1 thing to do. And then for the next number that 4, it's being divided. So I'm going to erase those now. It's being divided, so I'm going to put a little 2 next to that to say, okay, that's the second thing I'm going to do. So now we can start solving. Okay, so I'm looking at my first number I need to take care of, that's 3. And what do I need to do to it? It's being added, so I want to subtract it. What I do to one side, I do to the other. 5 minus 3 is 2. 3 minus 3 is gone. So now I'm going to write down what I have left. X divided by 4 is equal to 2. Okay, then we say, what is happening to that 4? So it's being divided, so I need to times it. So we times there, x is equal to 8. So that's how we would do that one. So this is another example that we can try out. So 4 is equal to b plus 2 divided by 3. See if you can figure out what we would need to do first and give this problem a try. So this one is actually really funny because it breaks our rule of SAT-map. So when we're doing this one, a trick that we want to think about is what is farthest away from our variable. What is the farthest? What is the farthest number away from our variable just on that same side? The 4 is already farthest away, so it's taken care of. But when we have that big division sign, we actually treat it like a top and a bottom. Not like we did a number 2, where it's like that's attached to the x. It's separate. So the farthest thing away from the v in this situation is the 3. So we're going to take care of that first. So times by 3. Times by 3. That is equal to 12. that cancels, and we drop what we got, b plus 2, oops, and then we look at what's left. We have the 2, we want to minus it, and then we now get 10 is equal to b. Awesome. Okay, now I'm going to let you guys try a couple problems on your own, and we're going to have our wheel decide for us what we're going to do. So we'll open this up, and you guys are going to choose 2 equations to try. Or like we're gonna have like the wheel choose us 2, and then you guys will try them. So take a crack at this one, and then we'll come back in a minute. I'd let the students take a minute to solve it, and then let them explain how to do it. Other students can chime in to say like if they got the same answer, or if there was a mistake or anything like that. And then I'd let them do one more. So again, I'd let them work out this problem, have somebody else explain how they did it. Again, have students contribute to say, yeah, that's how I did it. I got the same answer, or like, oh no, I didn't do it like that. So that's how we would do that. And then once that is done, and I've seen how students are doing, I would take them to, like, I'd put this link in Google Classroom and have them solve this 2-step equation activity, and it gives them 7 problems to work out. And the nice thing is that like if they are struggling and they just like want to like watch a video like really quick, they totally can like come here. This also has options for different languages, so anybody who's an English language learner can like have that option. Let's see, like if I were to play it, it has like a lot of different like options, so that's really nice. And then also if students are still struggling, I will like have that breakout room. I'll be like taking note in the formative like assessments to see what students were struggling, and just be like, hey, I have this breakout room open for like these students. If you need help, I will be here. And then also like students with accommodations, I will pull them into this part as well, and that way I can break up the accommodations. And that is how I would present this presentation online. Thank you so much.